Hi, everyone. Just a quick review about part of our lecture from last week on nouns. We're getting near to the end of nouns. You'll probably be very happy to move on to verbs. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about the position of nouns in sentences and the different functions that nouns perform in Biblical Hebrew. So nouns can be subjects, objects, or can be in a genitive or possessive relationship with other nouns in the sentence. So you probably remember from grammar way back when what the subject of a sentence is, but you might have forgotten what the object of a sentence is, and you may not have ever known what a genitive relationship is or a possessive relationship is. So we'll review that a little bit. Let's take this simple sentence. In English, the man washed his brother's car. Now, obviously, you won't see this sentence in Biblical Hebrew, so I tried to make it quintessentially modern, I guess. Man here is the subject of the sentence, or maybe the man. So it's the man that's doing the verbal action. So the man is the subject. Washed is the verb. So this is the action that's going on. And then car is the thing that is being washed. So car is the direct object of the verb. Car is the thing that is receiving the action. Or another way you can think about it is that it answers the question who or what about the verb. So who or what was washed. In this case, the car was washed. So car is the direct object of the verb. Biblical Hebrew would structure this sentence differently. So word order is quite a bit different in Biblical Hebrew than in English, and it takes a little getting used to. The man washed his brother's car in Biblical Hebrew probably would look something like, and he washed, which would be one form in Biblical Hebrew, the man, which would be another form, the car of would be yet another, and his brother would be attached to the car. But we'll talk about that part later. So here's our sentence again. And he washed the man the car of his brother. The man, if we were writing this in Biblical Hebrew, would use the normal dictionary form of the noun with the direct article the. So as you maybe remember from last week, we make the in Biblical Hebrew by just adding a ha onto the front of a noun, a hey, and usually a patach. However, the car in Biblical Hebrew would likely be preceded by what is called a direct object marker to avoid any confusion over who or what is being washed, the man or the car. So if we begin the sentence and we read, and he washed, and then next we read, the man, you might think that it's the man that's being washed. And remember, the biblical Hebrew has no punctuation, so you might think the car of his brother is this maybe the subject of the next sentence coming up, or it has something to do with something else. So to make this clear, biblical Hebrew adds a little word called eight. Um, Sometimes if it's tacked onto another word with a dash, with a makef, then it the vowel is shortened and it's actually pronounced et, so it's either eight or et. So biblical Hebrew often inserts this word eight before the direct object to clarify the object of the verb. So just so that you, the reader, make sure you know what's going on, they add this little marker in the sentence. So biblical Hebrew would structure the sentence something like, and he washed, the man, ate, biblical Hebrew word, the car of his brother. Biblical Hebrew also has a special way to mark possession. So the car of his brother. So meaning the brother actually owns the car. To do this, Biblical Hebrew uses a form of the noun called the construct form. Nouns that are in this form are said to be in construct with the noun that follows. So here's a bit about the construct form. This is kind of the bad news of nouns. All nouns thus actually have two forms. The regular form, or the absolute form, that you've been studying in your vocabulary lists and looking up in the dictionary and would find as the main dictionary entry. And also the construct form, which you'll find a little bit later listed in the dictionary entry as something abbreviated, usually something like CSTR period, which will tell you what the construct form of that particular noun is. The fortunate part is that most construct forms only differ slightly from the absolute form. So they're not really all that difficult to differentiate. If you see a word and it's in construct, it's not too difficult to get back to the regular form of the word that you need to look up in the dictionary. So let's look at a simple example. We have this Hebrew word bait, which means house. And then we have this Hebrew word beit, which means house of. So, for example, the town in the West Bank, Bethlehem, is actually Beit Lechem, or house of bread. So it's not Beit Lechem, it's Beit Lechem. So Beit means house of, Beit just means house. Here's another example. Beit HaMelech is the house of the king. So house of the king. And the of always goes with the first word, and it's the first word in the series, or what is sometimes called a construct chain, that has this little vowel shift to it. And note that only the second element in the construct chain takes the article ha. So if you're going to add a ha, it's going to come on the second word, not the first word. And it's not ha bayit ha-melech, it's beit ha-melech. So only the second word gets the ha. Here's another quick example. Beit ha-Elohim is the house of God. So again, only the second element in the construct form takes the article ha. So here's the happy news. Sometimes there's no difference at all between the absolute form and the construct form. So as I said, sometimes there's a little vowel change, but sometimes there's no change at all. So let's look at another word, ruach. Ruach, which means wind, breath, or spirit. It can mean any of those things. But ruach can also be wind of, breath of, or spirit of. So in this case, the absolute form and the construct form don't differ at all. They just happen to be the same. Sometimes they're slightly different, sometimes they're the same. Here's a little hint. When two nouns appear side by side, they are likely in construct. This is not always going to be the case, but oftentimes is the case. And also the good news behind this is that if you know what the words mean, usually you can almost tell intuitively that you need to add an of to make the sentence make sense. So even if you're not completely on top of determining whether something is a noun in construct, it's usually fairly easy to figure out, and as we'll find out a little bit down the road, there are also little markings in the text which help you out. Here are some very regular things that happen in certain cases, though, when nouns shift from being in the regular form, which is called the absolute form, into the construct form. So let's look at the word Torah, which means law or instruction. You probably are familiar with this word, and you'll probably note that Torah is a feminine word because it ends in that Kametz hey. That T-shaped vowel with a hey on the end is a dead giveaway that the word is a feminine word. But let's look at what happens when the word is in construct. So here we have the Torat Yahweh, so the law of Yahweh. The hey at the end becomes a tav. So this is one of the ways that you're able to mark the fact that this is the law of Yahweh and it's not just law Yahweh or something. Now this is a little tricky because if you were to come across the word Torat in your reading and you were to look up Torat in the dictionary, it wouldn't be there. You would have to recognize that, oh, this word must be in construct, and the original form is Torah. So you do have to do that sort of backward understanding what has happened to the word in the process of it being written in the text. So this is a very regular change, happens all the time, very predictable. Here's another very regular change. Masculine plural nouns lose their final mem in the construct form. So let's look at another simple example. We have the word bane, which is son. And we have the word banim, which is sons or children. Like many languages, if you have one male in the group, then it sort of becomes an all, you refer to it as if it were an all male group. Kind of like we used to say men in English refer to all of humanity, whether they were men or women. So Biblical Hebrew operates like that as well, as do many Romance languages, French. I've never taken Spanish except in high school. I imagine it works the same way, Italian the same way, and so forth. Anyway, we have Ben or Bane in the singular, Banim as sons or children. And if we wanted to say sons or children of, the construct form is Bane. So notice that the final mem has dropped off, first of all, and that Hirik vowel, the one dot E sounding vowel, has become an A sounding vowel. So it's Sere vowel. So that Sere Yod at the end of a word is, I bet, a 99.9% giveaway that it's a noun and that it is in construct with the next noun. So there's an example. The sons or children of the prophets, B'nai HaNavi'im. So that's how this would be put together. Now again, if you were looking at B'nai and trying to look that up in the dictionary, B'nai wouldn't be there. So that's kind of the downside of this. But you would have to recognize that the dictionary form of the word is not the plural, it's the singular, and that would be Beit Nun, and then you could look that up in the dictionary and see how the vowels look. So let's look at another one. This is a word that I don't know if you saw the video, but I skipped over in the vocab list just because it's kind of a strange word. It's panim, which means face. So it's another one of these biblical Hebrew words that's plural in form but singular in meaning. And some people have speculated wildly that because your face is symmetrical and there's two sides to it that are the same, that somehow this is how face became plural. Who knows? Anyway, the word for face is panim. But actually, that I know of see the word panim in the Bible, it's always pane, which means face of. So I guess the Bible doesn't talk about faces just in the abstract. It's always specific faces. Faces, a face of. So if we wanted to say the face of Yahweh, we would say Panei Yahweh. So it's not Panim, not Yahweh. The final mem drops off, and the Hirik vowel changes to a tsere, the two dot a sounding vowel. One final note, nouns in construct are, by definition, definite, so your English translation should include the word the in there somewhere, whatever makes sense. Again, I think this will come very intuitively to you. It does to most people at least, so not something to panic about, but just another thing to be aware of. Hope you found this helpful, and have a great day.